So the leaked gameplay for the next Battlefield game has been out there for a few days now, and I spent a bit more time watching it and also looking at some comments and discussions around it on Reddit and Twitter and so on. And there are two topics I wanted to talk about again, because I completely left them out in my last video, but I think they are interesting nonetheless. And the first topic are the factions that we can expect to see in the new Battlefield game. The leaked playtesting footage has shown NATO as one of the factions and another faction called Pax Armada as the opposing faction, of course. And according to leaks that we got a few months ago, this seems to be a PMC, so a private military company. Because back then, I think it was Insider Gaming came up with this, and they said it would be a conflict between NATO and some PMC. But we never learned where this PMC comes from, if it is already existing within the Battlefield lore, or if it is something completely new. But now we have at least a name, so Pax Armada, which means armed peace. So this is Pax Armada is Latin. And I found an interesting post on Reddit about this PMC where someone went into the possibility that this might be connected to Henry Blackburn. So this was the guy that the whole story of Battlefield 3 was revolving around, and then he kind of returned in Battlefield 2042, at least lore-wise. We've never seen him, but we know that he played a role in the lore of 2042 because he was the one who started a company called Archangel, and this company was involved with the experiments that were made on Redacted, so the map we got in Season 6, this underground map. And according to his archive that he has in 2042, he started a secret PMC in 2020, which then became one of the most powerful in the world. And if I remember correctly, the leaks that we got a few months ago also said that the new Battlefield game will be set around 2030. So maybe this Pax Armada is the PMC of Henry Blackburn. It's a possibility, it's just something that I thought was interesting, and maybe it's true or maybe not, because the game's only in pre-alpha, so this could as well be only a placeholder or just a working name for the PMC, because like Battlefield has also pointed out in a recent blog post, the playtest last Friday was about the general gameplay and the connectivity and the overall stability of the game, and not about the factions or anything. So I guess this is something we will learn about just shortly before the game releases. But it also means that the more traditional conflict between USA and Russia will be history this time, because this was used in a lot of other Battlefield games, and it might not be utilized in the new Battlefield game again. At least it doesn't look like it will be. But when we're looking at the current global situation, so the real life situation that we have with a lot of conflicts and tensions and wars as well, I think it's understandable if they use different factions this time, or even completely fictional ones. But we also know that the new game will have a single player campaign, so a story campaign, and that should help us understand the setting a lot better this time compared to Battlefield 2042, where everything just existed loosely in archives and on the website. And I think it was always really hard to actually get behind the lore and fully understand what the game was actually about. What some people on Reddit also noticed from the leaked gameplay is that both factions have the same vehicles, which is not really typical for Battlefield as well, because even though in most games both factions have access to the same arsenal of weapons, the air and ground vehicles are normally different. So not sure if the next Battlefield is taking a different approach here, or if this is just not final yet, which I think is very likely considering the pre-alpha state of the game. And like I said before, they're probably using a lot of placeholders right now, which could also apply to the vehicles. And this was also partially confirmed by producer David Sirland on X, because to a post where a user said that the voice lines could be more gritty, he said that many things are still placeholders, including those voice lines, I assume. So it's probably hard to tell right now what will actually end up in the final game and what will still change. However, what Sirland also confirmed is that the ability to drag down teammates to safety before reviving them is finally make it to Battlefield. This was also part of a leak a few months ago, if I remember correctly, but you know how it is with these leaks, you never know if they're true or not, because everyone can basically come up and say, hey, the new Battlefield will have this and that. As long as you don't see it, you don't know. But apparently in the leaked gameplay that we got, there was a scene where you could see someone dragging a soldier while reviving them. So apparently this feature is finally in Battlefield. It was already announced for Battlefield 5, but was later scrapped, and now it's finally being added. And Soland even says that with this feature there's some really fun combinations that can happen, because the revive and dragging can be cancelled at any time, whatever that means. Of course, he didn't give away any more about this, and he didn't go more into depth about this, and I'm actually surprised how openly he answers questions about the leaked gameplay, because he's pretty active on X right now and answering a lot of questions and just giving hints sometimes to things that people are asking, even if he's not actually answering the question. But it's cool that he does this instead of just pretending that the leaks don't exist or just ignoring them. But he also says in another post that he's of course not okay with leaks and that they are dealt with accordingly as well. So even though EA does not take down the videos anymore, not on Reddit and not on X and also not on YouTube, it still seems like the players who have leaked the gameplay will have to face consequences, and they will probably not participate in another playtest in the near future, at least not a Battlefield or an EA playtest in general. But one good thing that those leaks still have is that we finally saw the actual class system, or we got more insight on that class system. We already knew from Vince Zampella that they return to a 4 classes system, so we have 4 classes, and the footage has now revealed that it will be the 4 classes: Assault, Engineer, Support and Recon. So pretty much the same classes that were also added later on to Battlefield 2042, which means most Battlefield players and also most players that played 2042 should be familiar with them. And even though the gameplay with the class overview that I've seen was again pretty blurry, there were a few things that caught my eye. First of all, there was a gadget shown for each class right above the description of that class. For the Assault class, it's the med pen; for the Engineer, the repair tool; for the Support, a supply crate; and for the Recon, the tox, so a spotting tool. And since this was kind of highlighted, I assume these are kind of class gadgets like we have in 2042 already. So gadgets that are always equipped and that cannot be changed. And if I remember correctly, these should also be the same gadgets we have in 2042, except for the Recon, because the Recon has the redeploy beacon in 2042. And I kind of like this because I thought it was a good idea, especially for example for the repair tool that is always equipped to the Engineer, because when you are in a tank and you need a repair, you know that if there's an Engineer running around, they must have a repair tool because they cannot unequip it. I think this is pretty useful. And then in addition to this, I also spotted that each of the classes has a level system shown to them from level 1 to level 4, and I assume that this is the field spec I've mentioned in my last video. I just briefly saw this popping up in the last gameplay I watched and there was no explanation to this, but I was already assuming that it's probably similar to Battlefield 4's field upgrades that you had to level up during a match with squad-based actions. But one thing that caught my eye for the new Battlefield was the last of these upgrades, so the level 4 upgrade, because this one is always an ability that you have to activate manually. The former ones only seem to be passive, so that level 1, 2, 3, for example, the ability to carry more grenades as an Assault or to reload rocket launchers faster as an Engineer, but the highest upgrade always says press this and that button to activate something. And I don't want to get into all of them specifically because, like I said before, we don't know how much of this is placeholders and if everything will really make it to the game at the end. But what caught my eye was the one for the Support class, because it says that for a limited time it gives the ability to heal others as if you were a supply crate. And that reminds me so much on Battlefield Heroes, because it sounds like an ability that you activate and then you kind of have an area of effect where you can heal others around you. And I know a lot of hero shooters have similar abilities as well, and I'm not sure I really like this in Battlefield, to be honest. Because from what we've seen, that new Battlefield seems to be a lot more grounded than 2042, and I thought this might also apply to the abilities. And we might not see these kind of hero shooter abilities anymore, because we had this kind of stuff in 2042 already, and I actually thought we were over this. But I guess at the end of the day, it depends on how it plays and how powerful it is. And something else I noticed is that this class system might also mean that support is the class for healing and resupplying again. So similar to Battlefield 2042, we will have this very powerful class that can give endless health and ammo to teammates, but also to itself. So I wished they would have split this up into 2 more classes, so an actual support and a medic. But I'm hoping that everyone who is part of the playtest does give some feedback to this, so the devs can tweak things based on this feedback and change or maybe even eliminate some mechanics that do not resonate with the players. And lastly, one thing that took me a while to find gameplay of, but that was mentioned in the official blog post already that we got on Friday before the leaks started to appear, and that's the combat dive. Because in the blog post they said that they have changed the movement and that this also includes a combat dive. And back then I thought, okay, maybe this means like a Call of Duty dolphin dive, or maybe it's just a very quick go down to prone from sprinting. And now that I've finally seen some gameplay of it, it is indeed in the game. And it looks more like a fast run to prone mechanic instead of this goofy dolphin dive that we have in Call of Duty. So like I had said in my former video already, this might be useful to get behind cover more quickly, but it's probably nothing that you can utilize as much as you can in Call of Duty. So the movement in the new Battlefield doesn't look like it's reminiscent of the Omni movement that we have in Black Ops 6 now, which is good, I think, because it wouldn't really fit a Battlefield game. And yeah, that was it for today. Just a few more things I spotted in the leaked gameplay and that I wanted to share with you. Be sure to tell me in the comments below what you think about all of this, because I'm always interested in hearing and reading your opinions. And if you enjoyed the video as well, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe, and I'm gonna see you in the next one. I'm Catwoman, and you are awesome.